Hello everyone, warm welcome to you all. So let's start this event. So let me introduce myself. I'm Ashwin Bharat, the chapter leader for Code Academy, JU chapter, and I'm a web developer. I also write blog posts. You can find me on Medium, Hackernoon, and Dev websites. I'm a final year graduate student from Jain University, Bangalore, pursuing software engineering. So without further ado, let's start this event. So I welcome you all once again. Now, before we start, let's get to know each other through a small activity. Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes. So use this time and introduce yourself in this format. Okay, uh, who are you? What's your name? Your interest and your skills. Okay, so drop it in your chat section. Let's get to know each other first. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, anyone interested to introduce yourself? You can either use your mic or your chat. Okay, hello Rohan. Okay, you're from the same college. Good to see you. Others? Come on, guys, let's have a introductory, interactive event. Okay. Hello, Shoha Hussain. Okay. You want to be a full stack developer? That's really good. You know HTML and CSS. Very nice. Nice. So JavaScript will help you add more interactivity in the website, right? So you are at the right place. Hello, Harshit. Come on, guys. Let's have an interactive session. I've seen only few of you introduce yourselves. Come on. Uh, be bold and start introducing. Yes. Hello, Janathal, if I'm pronouncing it right. You're from Bangladesh and you are from Information Science and Engineering branch. Okay, that's good. We have a lot of computer science students here, right? A lot of engineers. That's good. Others, guys, come on. We have at least around 20 members with us, right? Right now. And it's counting on. Let's let's see others' introductions. Okay, hello, Suhani. One is from IoT branch. Okay, you want to become a software developer. That's good. That's good. Keep it coming, guys. That's good. I can see a lot of them joining the event. Come on, let's have a good introduction within ourselves. You can either use your chat section or your mic to introduce yourself. Okay, okay, okay. There's a mechanical engineering student. That's good. I'm happy to see students from all departments right now. Okay, hi, hello, Nikhil. Okay, you are from Jain University as well. That's good. Okay, interested in web development. Good. You can see a lot of you who are interested towards either software development or web development. Okay, hello, Dilip. You are also from CSE branch. Good, good. Okay, so let's move on. Keep introducing yourselves as well. Okay, okay. Hello, Girish. Okay, we have a cloud developer over there. Hello, IoTG. If I'm spelling it right. So Jaya Sharma. I'm sorry if I pronounced it by wrong. Okay, hello Aditi. Okay, we have from students from CS departments. That's good. That's good. Okay, interested in web development, software engineer. Cool. All right. So just a second. Okay, guys. So let's move on. Before we start this event, I would like to have a few announcements from the chapter itself. Okay, so we have our new core team members who have joined this chapter. So I welcome you, uh, Pujita, Nitish Patel, and Girish to the chapter. So come on, guys. So introduce yourself using the mic so that others can know about you. Pujita,
So yeah,
yeah,
hi Ashwin. Hello guys.
hi.
So hope everyone are interested in this event. Hope it will go well. I'm Pujita Mantana. I'm from fourth year, Jain University. I'm in CSC from Cloud Computing and Mobile Application branch. So I'll be the core team member of this uh, Code
Chapter,
Academy.
yeah,
Yeah, and so yeah.
yeah. Thank you, Pujita. I'm happy to have you as part of the team now. So Nitish, are you there?
Yes, bro. Hello, everyone. Okay, so I'm Nitish Patel from Nepal. I'm currently pursuing my computer science and engineering with spec in IoT at Jain University. So proudly, thank you for the opportunity, Ashwin, bro. So I'll be leading as a core team member at Code Academy and under Jain University chapter.
Yeah.
So it will be exciting. I hope. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nitish. Happy to have you as part of the team. We also have Girish from robotics department. So introduce yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Thanks for the suggestion, Ashwin Bhaiya. I'm Girish from Jain University, pursuing robotics and automation in third year. I love coding as a part, and I develop projects based on AI and ML. And recently, one of my papers got published in ResearchGate based on a particular chatbot. And I would love working for the code chapter to the fullest and possible as I could.
thank you, Girish. That's you have really achieved a lot of milestones as a student right now. So I would also encourage every one of you to try to publish some papers like Girish as well. So it will help boost your resume actually. Yeah. So moving forward, there's another announcement. We also have a new Discord channel, uh, Discord community for our you know uh, chapter. So as we already have a WhatsApp community, students have reported that they want to have a one-on-one interaction with core members and chapter leader, right? So in WhatsApp, this would become a mess. So what I did is we have created a new community on Discord where you can directly contact me or the core team members and chat with each other as well, get to know about the entire chapter members itself, right? So I'll be dropping the links soon in the chat box. Okay, so everyone please join in this community as well. So only at this place I'll be active enough to interact with each other and help you even solve doubts in technical doubts or even clarifications from even JavaScript or whatever the technologies that I'm good in, right? So moving on. So let's start this event. Okay, so I welcome you all once again to be a part of this JavaScript the basics event. So today we'll be taking a roadmap uh, in JavaScript. Okay, so we'll be discussing about what is JavaScript in general, and we'll be also solving few basic JavaScript code. Okay, you can even code along. So when I intimate about this coding part, I'll give you a break so that you can get your code editors together, the language of so right. So let's start. Basically, whenever we use Google Chrome or Firefox or Internet Explorer or whatever browser that we use in any device, we are accessing a lot of websites, right? So these websites are all coded using JavaScript, right? So JavaScript, including CoffeeScript and Microsoft's TypeScript, is by far the most popular language with around 12 million developers using it worldwide, right? So internet is a really big network that we have around the world, right? So whatever that we access through our Google Chrome or our any browsers, we use the uh, we use the websites because of JavaScript, right? So each and every website is connected with each other with the help of JavaScript. JavaScript, kind of gives you the interactivity with the websites, right? So we'll be discussing what and all we can do with the help of JavaScript. So the first thing that comes into picture is user interfaces. So whenever you've written code using HTML or CSS, what happens is you will end up with a static website, right? So you will have a static website which does not do a lot. So what HTML does is it gives you a structure to the website, and CSS will give you the styling to the website, right? So although if you go on and see the websites that you really like, which are very interactive in the internet, so they use a lot of JavaScript to make the users use it more free and easy, right? So any famous products that you use on the web, let it be Facebook or Microsoft's Office web products or Google, they all use what we call as front end frameworks or libraries. Okay, so using these libraries, what you can do is you can build user interfaces. So when I say user interfaces, it's what you see right in front of your screen, right? So as you are attending this event, you are seeing the Google Meets user interface, right? So that's what we call. So whatever you can see visually, we call that as an user interface, right? So as you can see, the popular uh, uh, front-end frameworks and libraries are React.js, Vue.js, and Angular. So Angular is built by Google, guys. So Google, what they have done, so they have built a framework so that we can write minimal amount of code and bring a really good user interfaces. So, and we also have Vue.js, which is also really popular. He is developed by a developer who has worked in the FANG companies, and in product based companies. So, and we also have React.js. So right now, what happened is Angular had a shift from one code base to another. So in the meantime, React took up and went on to become a really popular library, we can say. And right now it is most popularly used framework. So React, we will be calling React as library instead of framework because it's lightweight. Okay, so you can look on the differences later after this event. So React is also built by Facebook, guys. So what Facebook team has done, they have made this library open source so that we can developers like us can use this to build really good user interfaces. So JavaScript, the first thing that comes into the picture when we think about JavaScript are user interfaces. So these are the three popular frameworks or libraries that is used worldwide. Okay, so moving on, you can also build REST APIs and servers using JavaScript. So I'll explain to you each term one by one. So starting with what is a REST API? So REST API full form is representational state transfer for REST, and API is a application programming interface. So what this means is whenever you have a website, let's say you log into your Facebook account, right? So whatever you see visually right in front of you, that's a user interface. Although whenever you access your profile or whenever you see posts or the number of likes, all are saved in a database on the servers, right? So server is nothing but a computer. Okay, it's a complex and fast computers which is online 24 by 7. Okay, so in simple terms, server is actually a computer which has a sophisticated software. Okay, so what happens is server will be very fast, as well as it will use a complex software so that it is very responsive to the users. So whenever we go into the Facebook website, it is very fast, right? We can use it whenever we want, uh, at whatever time we want. It will be equally responsive, right? If you log in at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m., the website will be up and running without any effects, right? So that will be taken care of the servers. Okay, so other than JavaScript, have you, any of you used any programming languages, guys? Any other programming languages that you are aware of? Let's see. You can use your mic or chat to, you know, show this. You can be, yeah, C, C++, Java, Ruby. Yes, yeah. You have used C, right? C++, Java. So what we do is, yeah, Python. So these languages are popular because they are also used to build backend servers. Okay, so we have Java, we have Ruby, right? So why we use this widely? Because uh, previously, back in those days, we only used JavaScript on the front end. Okay, so moving on, what happened is Ryan Dahl, who is the creator of Node.js, what he did was he used the V8 engine of Google Chrome. So Google Chrome has a engine. So it's like how we have for Java. If we need to run any code on a browser, we need something on the back behind the screens, right? So that's what V8 engine is. It will take care of the code that we write and transform it into the machine readable form so that the users can see the user interfaces. Okay, so what the creator of Node.js, what he did was he took the V8 engine and used it for server. So that's why now we can write JavaScript on the servers as well. Okay, so not just at the front end, now we can also use JavaScript at the back end. And Node.js is a popular runtime. We can say it is a runtime. It's not a framework, it's a runtime on top of which we can write server code. Okay, moving on. If you have any doubts, you can unmute yourselves, guys, or you can use the chat. Okay, so we can also build mobile application. Okay, so it is possible with the help of React Native. So again, React Native is a library which is published and open source by Facebook. So if you have noticed the user interfaces of Facebook apps compared to other apps, it's very responsive, right? So that's because of this. Sorry, just a second. Okay, so whenever you have used Facebook apps, right, on mobile, it's very responsive, right? So you can write those similar responsive apps using JavaScript itself, using the library called React Native. Okay, so it is also built with JavaScript with the help of React library, and Facebook has made it open source so that we can also use it to build mobile applications. Okay, so moving on, we can also build a desktop applications using JavaScript, guys. So there's a library called Electron. So any new products that you have used, for example Discord or Slack community, so or even WhatsApp, you have WhatsApp desktop application, right? So all of these applications are now built with the help of Electron JS libraries only. So just with JavaScript, what you can do is you can convert your web application products or mobile applications into a desktop application with a few changes using this library. Okay, so moving on, we can also build IoT products and robotics projects using JavaScript itself, right? So you might have heard about Arduino or Raspberry Pi, right? Anybody have worked with that before? Arduino, Raspberry Pi. Okay, okay, it's okay. So what we have in an Arduino or Raspberry Pi is we have a small hardware platform, okay, based on which you can build small projects so that you can connect the sensors with the computers. Okay, you can collect data using some sensors, like you have a light detecting sensor. We also have you know uh, Bluetooth sensor. We also have Wi-Fi modules. So you can connect your hardware kit to the computer and collect data from it. Okay, so you can visit this website to know more as well. So using JavaScript, you can also build IoT projects. Okay, so JavaScript is everywhere, guys. So when you learn this language, you can not only use it for front end web development, you can also use it for back end. You can also use it for mobile application development. You can also use it for desktop, IoT, and many more. Okay, so JavaScript is omnipresent. You can use it uh, in each and every platform right now. Okay, so before we move on, do you have any doubts? Anybody? Okay, okay, cool. So moving on. So now let's discuss a little bit about the history of JavaScript. Okay, so what happened is previously we had a browser called Mosaic. Okay, so it was built by company called Netscape. So what they did was they created this website, and it made the internet very popular back in 1990s. So internet was the booming technology, right? It was slowly adapted by everyone. So what Netscape did was they created their first web browser, and based on which other companies has also started building this similar software products like web browsers. Okay, so after that, what happened was JavaScript was introduced by Netscape. Okay, through their browser, and it really went popular. Okay, so what happened after that is each and every company started to write their own version of the JavaScript. We had Google Chrome, Opera, Safari, Internet Explorer, and all these browsers. What they did was they created their own version of JavaScript. So that's when we had something called browser wars. Okay, so let's just say when we write JavaScript in one browser, it was not working on another browser. So they had some other type of code over there. So to have a solution to this issues, what we came up with was ECMAScript. Okay, so ECMAScript is not another language and all. It's just the standard for JavaScript. Okay, ECMAScript is a standard in JavaScript, which is uh, which is followed by each and everyone who are using these browsers. Okay, so whatever code you write in your project, right? Whenever you use in this browsers, if your code follows ECMAScript standards, it will work on all of the browsers. Okay, so that's why ECMAScript came into the picture. Okay, so that's a really interesting documentary, guys, on Discovery channel. You can check it out later about browser wars. So moving on, any doubts till now? Anyone about the history? Okay, cool. Okay, okay. So let's start our coding session. Okay, so let's take a break for 10 minutes, guys. So after 10 minutes, you come up with your code editors. You can be Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text, or you can use a website called REPL. Okay, so I'll be using a REPL online editor. I'll just a second. Okay, so this is a REPL website, guys. Okay, you can sign in with your Google account, and you can create a new rep project over here. Okay, while selecting the language, you can choose HTML, CSS, JS. Okay, so to create a small front end project, you can use this, and you can give your name. Okay, and you create your REPL. It is a simple process. Okay, so I'll give you 10 minutes time. So based on that, you will get, after creating, you will get three files: index.html, style.css, and script.js. So let us meet after 10 minutes. Okay, it's 6:35 now. Let's meet around 6:45. Okay, I hope you guys are ready to have a code along session. Okay,
Ashwin bhai, one doubt, one small doubt.
okay, go on.
Will we be able to, get this file on GitHub?
Yeah, sure. After this event, I'll be sharing the important links after the regarding this code files presentations.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah. Bhaiya, one more doubt, bhaiya. Like, we should import this file directly to GitHub, or we have to like do some process to from this platform to GitHub in order to
no need.
transfer those files?
No need. You can just log in with your Google account or GitHub account. Okay, and create a project. Okay, after that I'll be showing you the code so that you can follow along. Okay, is this clear?
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So today we'll be discussing about variables, data types, control flow, operators and functions. These are the basics of JavaScript, or we can say any other programming language. If you cover these topics, you'll be good to go. Okay, so moving on. Variables are named as location in the storage. Okay, so in JavaScript we use variables to store data uh, and store it in a location. Okay, so we'll be not only storing but also accessing the data using variables. Okay, so in JavaScript we have the syntax as follows, where we will be using var. Var stands for variable, var, followed by the variable name. You can give any variable valid variable names. So we cannot use predefined reserved keywords like we have for the programming language. There are some words which have meaning to it, right? Other than that, you can name the variable names, and a value we can assign and value to it. Okay, so as you can see over here, here's an example. So this is a variable name called event name, and I've declared the variable over here, and I've assigned the value as string as a JavaScript roadmap as a string to the event name variable. Okay, so I'll be sharing this code file. So is it visible, guys? Can you see the screen? Okay, cool. So as you can see, we'll be using JavaScript in depth only. So this is the basic HTML code to connect our CSS file and our JavaScript file. Okay, so you just need to copy this two lines in your code. Okay, the other starter code will be given in the REPL project only. If others want to copy, I'll give you some time. Okay, so for newcomers who don't know HTML, I'll explain to you a little bit. Okay, so in HTML we have this doc type HTML tag, right? So these are called tags. So whatever we close within this angular brackets are called tags. We have doc type HTML to denote that we are using the latest version of HTML. Okay, so this is the HTML tag. We'll be adding all of our tags inside this one tag HTML. Okay, so this is an opening tag, this is a closing tag, and we also have two main tags called head and body. So most of our HTML tags will be inside this body only. So inside this head, what we will be adding is the uh, first thing is the title of the uh, website. Okay, so as you can see over here, any uh, website that you open, and in that tab there will be some words, right? So those words will be displayed because of this title tag. Okay, and we'll be linking our style sheets where we'll be writing the style using this link tag, and any other metadata. So whenever you share your link in the social media, there will be some metadata, right? Something a small summary and a image if uh, the link is valid. So those kind of information go under this head tag. Okay, we'll be using meta tags for that, and followed by that we will be having body tag, where we have declared the heading of the website. Okay, so as you can see over here, this is the output of the uh, website. So as you can see, we have that's JavaScript roadmap, the basics, as the heading, right? So I've given this as the h1. H1 stands for the first heading. We'll be having six types of header tags. So among them, h1 will give you the uh, biggest font size. Okay, and followed by that I've included the script tag. So as you can see, there's a script.js file. So we'll be coding most of our JavaScript in the script tag only. Script, sorry, a script JS file only. So no need of knowing about HTML as of now, but I just wanted to give you a quick introduction. Okay. Okay. So moving on. The topics for today is variables, data types, control flow, operators, and functions. Okay. So as you can see over here, before we start, you'll be wondering what is this green, lines, right? So this is a comment. Okay. So when you use two forward slashes, it's a single line comment. As you can see, the color will change if we add this two forward slashes. So for if we want to add some documentation, right? So as you can see, to explain in more detail, I have given you certain number of lines, right? So this is what we call as documentation. So to give some good documentation in your code, we will be using commands. Okay. So as you can see, this is a single line command. All these three lines are single line commands. We also have multi-line commands. Okay. As you can see, the multi-line commands start with forward slash and star and ends with star and slash. Okay. So after this, I have added this whatever you add in inside this two uh, commands, two slashes and star. This will be a multi-line command. So whatever you write in here, so JavaScript engine, what it will do, it will neglect this code. Okay, it will not run this code. It is just uh, for the sake of documentation. So only developers will be able to see this, right? Okay, so moving on. So we have this variable called event name over here. Okay, so this is a simple variable that we have over here, and I have assigned it a value JavaScript roadmap. Okay, I have given this event name as JavaScript roadmap, right? So we can either declare the variable like this on a separate line and assign a value like this in a separate line, or what you can do, you can directly declare it like this. Okay, both are viable, both are correct. Okay, can both declare as well as assign in the same line also, it will work. Okay, and moving on, we have a something called console.log. Okay, so console.log is used by developers so that they can output errors in the code. Okay, mostly we will be using this console.log for uh, you know uh, for it is for the reference for developers only. Okay, so if any of you have worked with Android, you might have noticed the console window at the bottom right in the code editors. So whatever we use inside this console.log will be displayed over the console over here. Okay, so we'll be using console.log to output the value that we have for now. Okay, cool. So moving on, so you'll be wondering if we have noticed other languages like Java or C++ or C, we'll be using some data types, right? Something called as int and float. So here we won't be using any of that because JavaScript is a loosely typed language. Okay, what I mean by loosely typed language, it means you don't have to specify the type of data you are going to use. Okay, you are going to store in the variable. So as you can see, I am storing a string data type, right? So whatever is enclosed within two double quotes or single quotes, it is a string, right? So in JavaScript, what happens is we don't need to specify the type of data that you are using. That is the data type, right? So it is a loosely typed language. As you can remember, some of you might have some knowledge in Python as well, right? So even in Python, you won't be using any type to specify the variable type, right? So you'll be directly using declaring this variables inside the language. Okay, so that's why we say JavaScript is a loosely typed language. Okay, so we have covered variables for now. So moving on, we'll be discussing about data types. Okay, so till now, do you have any doubts, guys? Anyone? Did you understand what are variables and how we declare variables in JavaScript? Okay. Okay, cool. So moving on, we'll be discussing about data types. Okay. So data types are nothing but the type of data you are going to store. Okay. So as you can, there are numbers, there are strings, right? So in JavaScript, we have 6 basic data types, which are number, boolean, string, object, undefined, and null. Okay. We'll be discussing one by one later. Okay. So the main data types we'll be using are number, boolean, and string. Okay. So undefined and null are something we'll be encountering later. So I will be discussing about this later. Okay. So the first, sorry. So the first data type that we will be discussing is data number. Okay. So as you can see, I have created a variable called USN. So most of the college students will be having a USN, right? It's a university register number where it will be unique for each and every student in college, right? So in JavaScript we have something called number, right? So any data type that you are using, so to know about which data type you are going to use, we can use a property called type of. Okay. So as you can see, uh, the reserved keywords like var standing for variable or type of, these will be uh, shown as different colors in editors, right? So as you can see, type of will be used for knowing about the type of data that we are going to store in the variable. Okay. So as you can see, I have declared a variable USN and assigned it a value 31. So 31 is a number, right? So if I run this code, if you have noticed this console, right? So as you can see, it is a number. So the USN that we have displayed, uh, that we have declared, is a type number, right? So we can use this type of property to know what type of data you're going to store. Okay. So next we'll be discussing about boolean. Okay. So in boolean is nothing but either true or false. Okay. Boolean is used to check whether a statement is true or false. Okay. So as you can see, I've declared a variable called check-in, and in that check-in I've declared it as true, as you guys have checked in this event. So if there's a code to denote this, we'll be having a variable as check-in and we'll be assigning it as true. Okay. So as you can see, if I uh, output the type of check-in, we'll be getting boolean. Okay. So if you can see the console, as you can see, it is boolean, right? So that is the another data type that we have in JavaScript. So moving on, we have already seen the uh, string data type, right? As you can see, the first output in the console is from the first console.log statement, right? So if I comment this out for just for now and try to output the type of event name, the variable that we have declared to assign a string, we'll be getting the output as string. Okay. So I'll be commenting the other code so that we will be having only one output. Okay, just to not have any confusion. Okay. So as you can see, the event name is of type string. So you can use this type of operator whenever you want to get to know which type is declared or assigned to the variables that we are using over here. Okay. So we are seeing number, boolean, and string. So we'll be now seeing what is an object also. Okay. So in JavaScript, an object is a data type which is also a data structure. Okay. In an object, what you can do is you can store what we call as properties. Okay. So as you can see, if I hover over the mouse, we have something message called property, right? And I have given two properties to the object that I declare over here, obj1, object 1. Okay, and I have declared it in such a way that I am using here the curly braces, right? So if you want to declare any object, you will be opening a curly brace and closing the curly brace, and within that we will be giving the properties. Okay, so as you can see the syntax, the rules is we have to use the property name. Just like a variable name, you can use a property name followed by a colon, and followed by that we'll be having a value. Okay, so as you can see, I've given a property called greeting, and followed by that I've given the value hello. Okay, and I've also given closing notes as another property and a value called by, right? So as you can see, when I try to display the object in the console, if you watch it very closely, uh, this is how an object is stored in the storage. Okay, we have a property and we have a value. We have a property and a value, right? So we'll be separating each property using this comma over here. Okay, so in short, this is how we declare an object and assign values using property followed by value. Okay, so what to access each and every property, let's say you want to only access the greeting property from object 1. Okay, so what you can do is you can use something called dot operator. Okay, so this dot, what it will do, when I use this obj1 dot greeting, you can access the value of the greeting property. Okay, so if I run this code in the console, you can see we have hello, right? Instead of out printing the entire object, it will just print the value of greeting property, right? So similarly, as you can see, when I try to output the value of closing notes, we have by over here, right? So this is how we access the properties of an object. Okay, so even if you check the type of the object using a type of property over here, if I try to output this code, you will get the output is object, right? So as you can see, we have type object. Okay, so we have seen what is number, boolean, string, and object, right? So there are two other data types in JavaScript that you will be encountering a lot when you are building websites. One is undefined and another one is null. Okay, so whenever you create a variable, okay, let's say I create a variable now and named event 2. Okay, and I just declare it. Okay, and if I try to print this using the console.log, can anyone guess what will be the output? Anyone from the audience? If I try to only output the event2 value when I have not assigned anything, right? So what do you think will be the output of the code? Anyone have any idea? Okay, Nikhil says it's undefined. Ujjwal also says it's undefined. Okay, Girish says it's null. Okay, yeah, both the answers now. Okay, shall we check it out? So what we will get is undefined. Okay, so what does that means whenever you declare a variable, what you are doing is you are declaring, right? This is the declaration part. After that, as you can see above, let me show the first code. As you can see, in here I have declared the variable, but also I have assigned the value over here, right? So when you assign a value over here, you are what you are doing is you are defining the variable value. Okay, that's why we use the term define or undefined. Okay, so when you don't give any value to it, what happens is the JavaScript language, it will store, it will account this as an undefined data type. Okay, did you guys get it? Did you understand? So whenever you don't give any value, whenever you don't assign any value or define any value, it will take the variable event to as undefined. Okay. Okay, so moving on. So null is will be seen whenever you know try to whenever you don't want to assign any value, you just want to declare it as uh, nothing. Null means nothing. Okay, we can use null in those times, or whenever you use the JavaScript code, right? In the future, if you write any websites using JavaScript, you'll be seeing this null data type a lot. Okay, so that's about the basic JavaScript data types, guys. Okay, so moving on, we'll be discussing about the next topic, control flow. Okay, so till now we have discussed about variables and data types, right? So do you have any doubts till now? Anyone? Shall we move on? Okay, okay, cool, good. Okay, so we'll be now seeing operators. Okay, uh, okay, we'll be seeing what is operators now. Just a second. So what are operators? Anyone have any idea? Anyone who have learned other programming languages might have noticed about this term, right? What are operators? Okay, arithmetic, logical, assignment, exactly. So yes, yes, all are operators. You are right, Aditi. So in general, operators are symbols that we use to perform any arithmetic operations or assignment operations or comparing values. Okay, till now we have actually used a operator right now. Can anyone tell me what operator we used till now when we are discussing about variables or and data types? We used an operator. Okay, type of, yes, and yes, type equal to, right? We used equal to assign a value to a variable, right? So that is an assignment operator. Okay, so if you want to perform any arithmetic operations like addition or subtraction or multiplication, division, so whatever type of arithmetic operation or comparison, if one element is lesser than or equal to, if it is both are equal or both are not equal, so in these cases we'll be using operators. Okay, so we have a lot of operators in most of the languages. Okay, similarly we also have operators for uh, these may operators for JavaScript. Okay, so we'll be discussing from arithmetic operators. Okay, so as you can see, we have five basic arithmetic operators. One is plus, minus for plus for addition, minus for subtraction, star for multiplication. We actually say this as asterisk. Okay, so it is not a star, it is an asterisk. Okay, so whenever anyone asks you, this should be your answer. Okay, it shouldn't be a star, it should be asterisk. Okay, we also have a forward slash for division and percentage for modulus. Okay, modulus means so whenever you divide two numbers, we'll be having a reminder right at the bottom. So whenever you want to obtain that reminder, we'll be using this percentage operator. Okay, okay, so let's start using these operators one by one. Okay, so assume that we have two variables a and b. Okay, in a we have stored 100 and b we have stored 20. Okay, so when we try to add this when we want to add this both numbers using these variables a and b, we'll be using plus, right? So can anyone guess what will be the output of A plus B? Come on, guys. What will be the output of A plus B right now? Come on, let's make it interactive. Everyone? Yes, the 120, right? So let's check it whether you are right or not. You are, yes. So when we add to two numbers 100 and 10, 20, sorry, we'll be getting as 120, right? So let's say we want to subtract these two numbers. What will be the output now? Exactly. So the output will be 80, right? So let's say we want to multiply these two numbers. What will be the output now? Come on, guys. Let's make it a very interactive. As you can see, I see a lot of answers in the chat. Come on, everyone. A multiplied with B. What will be the answer? Yes, that's a big number, right? We'll be getting 2000. Yeah, yeah. So what if we want to divide both of these numbers? We'll be using a forward slash, right? What will be the output now? 100 divided by 20. Exactly. 5, right? So when we divide, we'll be getting 5. So what will be the remainder? When I said remind, we'll be using reminder for percentage symbol for remainder, right? To obtain the remainder. When we what will be the remainder for 120? Okay, okay, it is 0, right? So when we try to divide 100 with 20, it will divide it by 5, so we'll be obtaining a 0 as the remainder, right? So let's check it, and it's 0, right? So what if I try to divide 20 by 100? Let's say I want to divide b by a. So what will be the remainder when I divide 20? That is b divided by a. So sorry, b modulus a. Can anyone guess what is the output when we divide 20? Sorry, when we try to use the modulus operation for 20 and 100. Anyone? Okay, let's see the output. It is actually 20. Okay, you know why? Yeah, reminder. You are right, Aditi. So when we try to get the remainder of b and a, instead of a modulus b, when we put b modulus a, what happens is it will look like 200 divided by 100, right? When you divide 20, sorry, when you divide 20 by 100, you will be getting the remainder as 20, right, in the first operation. So that's what you will obtain using this modulus symbol, right? When you divide it, you just a second. Let's say when you divide b by a, you are getting 0.2, right? Although when you try to get the remainder and the first operation, what you'll be getting is 20. Okay, it's not 0.2, it's 20. Okay, cool. So these are the 5 basic operators that we have in JavaScript for arithmetic operations. Okay, so we also have increment and decrement operators. Okay, so increment and decrement, what it will do, it will increase a value by 1 or decrease a value by 1. Okay, so we'll be using 2 plus or 2 minuses to denote increment and decrement operation. Okay, so let's say we have this variable b is there, right? So if I try b plus plus, can anyone tell me what will be the output of b plus plus? Okay, let's say I run this code. It is 20, right? It's not 21, it's 20. Can anyone explain why? We saw you. We saw three of you were answering as 21, right? But it's 20. Yes, exactly. It is post increment. So we have this two types of increment operations itself. Okay, when you try to increase the value of b like this, so what will happen is it will uh, output the value as 20 but increment the value as 21. Okay, this because we are using this plus plus after the variable name. Okay, so if I try this the opposite way, if I try plus plus b, see what will happen. It will be 21, right? Now it will be 21 because the first operation it does is it will increment. After that it will give it to the console.log function, right? Although when you try to do b plus plus, what it will do after the incrementation, if you check the value of b at the first console.log, it will give you 20, but after that the value is actually increased in the storage. Okay, so as you can see, this is a post increment. Okay, if you use it, let's say like this, this is a pre-increment operator. Okay, pre-incrementation operator, say operation. Okay, and this is post, right? Okay, so let's say we want to decrement this b value. Okay, if I comment it out, let's say, okay, and let's take a for now. Okay, let's take a, and if I try to post decrement the value, what will be the output, guys? 100. Aditi says it's 100. Test 100. Let's say so 100 it is, right? So this is also what we call post decrement operation, right? So if we try to pre decrement, that is when we use it before the variable name, we'll be actually getting 99, right? Yes. So it is very important when you use this incrementation or decrementation operator. If you use it before the variable, it will first do the task of incrementing one value. After that, it will output it. Okay, so whenever you try to use this part of the code, what instantly what it will do, it will increase the value by 1. Whereas when you use b plus plus, it will give you the actual value first. After that only it will increment in the storage. Okay, so moving on, let's have a quick exercise for you all to you know clear any confusions if it is there. Let's say we have two values, x equal to 5, okay, and y equal to 10. Okay, let's say I want to increment the value of x first. After that I want to add the value of y like this. Okay, so let's say we have this expression. Okay, so can anyone of you guess what is the output of this code? Take your time. Okay, let's say what is the output of this particular expression. Let's see how many of you get the correct answer. Okay, use the chat section. Okay, what is the output of the expression that is included in the console.log over here? Okay, you have 3 answers, guys. Come on, let's make it interactive. Do we have any other answers? We have 3 different answers now. Okay, Okay, cool. Okay, shall we run it? So as you can see, the answer is 12. Okay, so I'll explain it to you by how this works. We have x, first initial value of x as 5, right? So when we try to post increment, what it will happen? It will give the value 5 first. After that only it will increase the value in the storage. Okay, so I will denote that incrementation part over here near the x value. Okay, so now x is 6, but it gave us the value 5. Okay, after this, as you can see, this is a pre-decrement operator for y, right? So now what will happen? It will give the value of 9 and also kind of update in the storage as well, right? Now the value of x is 6 and y is 9, right? So moving on, when we again pre-increment the value of x, now x is 6, right? So what will happen when we pre-increment the value of 6? We will get 7, right? And when we try to subtract this whole number by post decrementing y, so we have 9 over here right now. The value of y is 9, right? So what it will give? It will give us 9, but it will decrement it in the storage later, right? So as you can see, we have 5 plus 9, we have 14. 14 plus 7, 21. So 21 minus 9, the value is 12, right? Did you guys understand? Yes. So these kind of exercises you will actually get in most of the programming languages. If you have any tests in this one, so output based questions will be there. So this is how it works, guys. Okay, pre-increment and post-increment. Okay, so moving on, we also have comparison operators like assign. First we have assignment operator. We used it, right? Till now, whenever we are declaring the variables, we'll be using this equal to, right? So this one equal to is used for assigning the values to the variables. Okay, so that is assignment operator. We also have comparison operators. Okay, so whenever you compare two values, it can be string, it can be boolean, it can be number. So whenever you compare two uh, use comparison operators, we need two values. Okay, we need one value on the left side, one value on the right side. Okay, so always the output of this comparison operations will always be a boolean value. Okay, it will be either a true or a false. Okay, let's say we take one example. Okay, just a second. Let's say you let's say we have comparison operators. Okay, let's say we want to compare whether 5 is greater than 2 or not. So whenever we compare whenever you use comparison operators like this, less than symbol or greater than, or less than or equal to, or greater than equal to, equal to, not equal to, we will be using two values. Okay, one on the left side, one on the right side. Okay, so this is called as operands, and this is an operator, this is an operator, and these are operands. Okay, so as you can see, 5 and 2 are called, 5 and 2 are called operands, guys. Okay, these are operands, and the symbol that we use, angular left angular bracket, that is an operator over here. Okay, so can anyone tell me what is the output of 5 greater than 2? Whether 5 is greater than 2 or not? Yes, it will be true, right? Because 5 is actually greater than 2. So whenever you use comparison operators, the output will always be a boolean value, as you can see over here. Okay, so if we try to check whether 5 is less than or equal less than 2, the output will be false, right? We can say whether 5 is equal to or 2. We check that, we can say it is false, right? 5 is not equal to 2. If we try to check whether 5 is itself equal to 5, then we get true, right? So let's change it back. Let's say if we want to check 5 is not equal to 2, then we'll get true only, right? So this is how we use comparison operators. Okay, so moving on, we have three other operators. Okay, which is and, or, and not. So we'll be discussing more about this when we'll be using this control flow statements. Okay, so moving on, let's check out control flow. So till now, anyone have any doubts? We have covered variables, data types, and operators, right? Did you guys understand this till now? Okay, cool. So in control flow, we have uh, two concepts. One is conditionals, and another is loops. Okay. So in conditionals, what we'll do, we'll have a certain number of conditions, and we'll check whether it is true or false. Okay. Based on that, we'll be executing to a few statements. You can say statements or a code, a small part of code. Okay. So we'll be using conditionals for that. Okay. And loops, we'll be using loops for doing repetitive tasks. Okay. Let's say for example, you are in Facebook. Okay. Let's take Facebook. So whenever you visit Facebook, your feed will be keep on updating, right? So it will be keep on coming up with new posts and notifications, right? So in some repetitive task like that, what we'll be using is we'll be using loops. Okay. And in JavaScript, we have three basic loops called for, while, and do while. Okay. So this control flow, or whatever the concepts that we discussed, it is actually transferable to other languages as well. Okay. The syntax or the rules in which we have to write this can vary, although the concept is same. Okay. So let's say you use Java, JavaScript, Python, any language, any programming language, the concepts apply the same over there as well. Okay. So moving on, let's start with conditional statements. Okay. So okay. So let's say we have a variable called check-in. Okay. You are all attending this event, right? Let's say Google Meet. Google has created this website, and what they have did, whenever a user joins this website, they will change this variable value as true. Okay. So I've used this variable check-in and assigned it as true. Okay. So as you can see, we have two conditionals called if and else. Okay. So what will happen is whenever we give a condition inside this if statement. Okay. So as you can see, I'm using these brackets inside which I'm giving the condition. In this condition, you should give an expression. You can give a value or an expression which will always give you a boolean value. Okay. Only then you can use it over here. Okay. So as you can see, I'm storing a boolean value inside this check-in variable, right? So what will happen is whenever the check-in will give you the true value as output, it will execute this code inside this if statement. Okay. If it is false, it will say it will execute the else statement. Okay. That's why we have this as if else. Okay. It is easy, right? It is like using English high level code, right? So whatever we see in this programming languages, they'll be using high level keywords like if, else, where. So it will be denoting like English related concepts only. Okay. So let's say I give this check-in as false. Okay. Can anyone tell me what will be the output? Will it give the first output or second output? Yes, it will give the second output, right? So let's say I print this one. It says please register before joining the event, right? So whenever the if condition does not apply, it will execute the else conditions, whatever you are given over here. Okay, let's say I give it back to true. So now what will happen? Obviously, it will execute this code only. Okay, so when it executes the if condition, statements, it will not execute these conditions. It will just skip it. Okay, it will just skip it and move on to the rest of the code. Okay, so this is how a basic if else statement work. We can also extend this if else ladder that we call using else and again if. You can do like this, and you can keep on adding more conditions also. Okay, so this is how an if else conditions work. Okay, so when you want to let's say you want to have 100 or 200 kind of conditions you want to check. So in those cases it is very difficult to write if else again and again, right? It will be kind of monotonous, right? So in those condition statement types, what we can do, we can use something called a switch statement. Okay, so as you can see, just as okay, so you can see we have something called switch conditional statement. Okay, so in switch what happens is it will take a condition just like an if statement. It will take a condition, and inside this switch we will be having something called cases. Okay, so this case, what it will do, it will check whether the condition is equal to this given case or not. Okay, let's say I have a variable condition and I given it a value a, right? So based on that we can give multiple cases. Okay, let's say you want to have another case to check whether given condition is a vowel or not. Okay, so what we can do, we can check using like this. Okay, let's say we want to check whether it is e, particularly e or not, and we want to output as console.log. It's a vowel. Okay, so what will happen when we run this code is it will output as vowel. Okay, because what happened is it is checking the condition and corresponding to the case values. Okay, so whatever cases that we given, it will run each of these cases. Okay, and this break statement, whenever we have checked this condition, right, we don't want to check another conditions also, right? If this condition is true, it will come inside this set of code and it will run it, right? And we want to cut it and get out of the conditions, right? That's why we use break statement. Okay, so break is also called as jump statements in programming languages. Okay, so this is a jump statement. Okay, it will just jump out of this code and it will not run the other codes. So just to denote, just a second, let's say I give these values vowel a and vowel e. Okay, let's say we change this value to e. Okay, so what will JavaScript do? It will check only which cases equal, right? And it will directly print the uh, corresponding values that it will break out of the switch conditions. Okay, so this is how a basic switch statement will work. Okay, and let's say you have a condition called z. Let's say we have given the letter z over here, and we don't have any other cases to check. In those cases, what we can do, we can give a default, something called default condition, so that just to intimate the user with that. Just a second. Okay, so just to intimate that this is a, let's say, a wrong letter. Let's try again. So whenever any type of cases, or if you use default, we have to use a break statement. Otherwise, what would happen if I comment this out, just for your clarifications? Okay, what will happen? It will execute each and every condition. Okay, so you can see. Just a second, guys. Uh, Okay, so when you don't give this break statement, sometimes when you have a multiple case conditions, it will execute each and every one of them. Okay, so just to avoid that, we'll be using break conditions. Okay. Okay, now, so let's say as you can see, this is also vowel, this is also vowel. Let's say you have multiple cases which you want to print out the same output. Okay, in those cases what we can do is, let's say I have a value called a I. Let's say I have value I. Okay, and I want to just print out the vowels as separate and other letters as consonant. Okay, so in those cases what we can do, we can simply instead of writing this again and again, we can have cases on top of each other like this. Okay, we can say a e I o u. Let's say we have want to check the vowels only. Okay, when you check only the vowels, and we want the same output for each and every one of them. Okay, in those cases what we can do, we can club all of this together and we will have just one output. Okay, so if I run this code, what will, if you can see, this case is checked and the value is printed. See, so if I change it to, let's say we want to check a, if you check a, it will be a vowel. If you check u also, you will get the same output. Okay, so this is how we can use switch cases yeah, effectively. Okay, if you want to have the same output for multiple values. Okay, let's say you want to try b, till then what will do, it will give the default, it will go to the default condition and it will print consonant. Okay, so this is the basic idea of a switch conditional statement. Okay, so moving on, we have loops, right? We have I said we have covered if, we have covered else, and we have covered what is switch also, right? Okay, so moving on, we have loops also as part of control flow. Okay, so in loops we'll be seeing three basic loops in JavaScript. One is the for loop, the while loop, and do while loop. Okay, so we'll start with the for loop. So let's say you want to print the values from 0 to 5. Okay, let's say you want to print uh, let's say you want to print the first 5 natural numbers. Okay, so in those cases what you can do, you can have a for loop. Okay, this is how for loop works. Okay, we have a initialization. Okay, so the first part will be to initialize a variable. Okay, so this is the first part of the for loop. Okay, for loop. So just a second. The first part of the code, as you can see, there this part is divided into three parts. Okay, so first one is initialization. Okay, we are initializing a variable a. Okay, and we are giving it a value 1. Okay, so the next part is the condition. Okay, so for each time the loop runs, let's say this is a loop which will run for 5 times. So for every time we have to have some condition, right, to say whether we have we only want to run this many amount of time. So that's why we have a condition over here. Okay, so in this code, which as you can see, we are checking whether the value is less than or equal to 5. Okay, and the final part of the for loop is the updation value. You can say it is the updation. Okay, so we don't want to keep on doing for infinite amount of number of time, right? We want to end this loop as well. So for that, what we are doing, we are incrementing the value using the increment operator, right? As we have discussed all of this. we are putting together the comparison operator, increment operators, and variables concepts, and using the for loop. Okay, so if I run this code, what will happen? We will get the first 5 natural numbers, 1 2 3 4 5, right? So this is how a for loop works. Okay, so it will keep it will keep on running this console.log statement for 5 times as per the condition. Okay, and it will increase the value like this. Okay, let's say you want to just output the odd values. Okay, in those conditions, what you can do, instead of incrementing the value by 1, you can update it using a statement like this. Okay, let's say you can say a is equal to a plus 2. Okay, in those cases, what it will do, it will just print the odd values, 1 3 5. Like it will jump the, it will just skip the process. Like the value of a is incremented by 2 times plus 2, right? We are increasing the value by 2, right? So this is how we can change the updation values like this. Okay, let's say you give a minus 2 by mistake. Okay, so what will happen whenever you give a wrong updation value like this, or you give a long condition, this loop will run for infinite amount of time. Okay, so if I try this in REPL, it will output a lot of values and stop at a particular point. Okay, it will just, as you can see, it is hanging for a moment. Okay, say if I stop this, see the page got unresponsive only. So as you can see, we have to give the right updation value or condition so that the loop does not run for infinite amount of times. Okay, cool. Okay, so after this we also have okay, so after this we also have while loop and do while loops. Okay, so while and do while are almost the same concepts. So I'll explain both of them clearly. Okay, so just a second. So till now, does anyone have any doubts, guys? Any doubts? Okay, the concepts are clear, right? Okay, cool. So let me take some refresh it. It's becoming unresponsive for a minute. Okay, come back. Hmm. So next, for the next loop we also have while loops, right? So let's say we have a variable count is equal to 5. Okay, let's say you want to do a repetitive task by printing first 5 numbers in first 5 natural numbers in reverse order. Okay, in those conditions, what we are doing here is we are using a while loop. Okay, a while loop actually works just similar to if condition, where you can, as you can see, we have a condition over here, and it will run till the condition is true, right? So as you can see, I have given the count variable the value 5, and I'm checking whether count is not equal to 0, right? So 5 is not equal to 0, right? So it will run this set of code. Okay, so as you can see, I'm logging the output and I'm decrementing the value by 5, right? So the while loop will keep on running the same steps again and again, statements again and again, until the condition becomes false, right? In that case, it will just jump out of this place. Okay, so can anyone tell me what will be the output of this code? As you can see, Anyone? Do you want to guess anything? The output of the code right here. We have a count value as 5, right? And we are printing it and decrementing the value. So what will be the output each time this loop runs? It will be 5 4 3 2 1, right? It will be 5 by natural numbers in reverse order, right? As you can see, we have the output as 5 4 3 2 1, right? So this is how a while loop works. And we also have do while loop, as you can see. So do while loop is not very different from while loop. Just these two are differentiable with one condition. The thing is, the while loops are called as entry control loops. Okay, the while loops are called as entry control loops, which means that if you want to run any code in while loop, what it is doing, it is checking the condition at first and then only allowing you to run the code, right? So that's why it is checking at the entry only. So it is entry control loop. Okay, whereas as you can see, the do while loop is a exit control loop. Okay, so what happened in do while is will be doing this value. Okay, just like do, it will do these statements. It will execute the statements and then only it will check whether the count is not equal to 0. Okay, so as you can see, it is a exit control loop. Only at the end of the first iteration it will check the whether the count is not equal to 0. As you can see, it will give the same output. Okay, let's say I give the value as 0 itself. Okay, let's say the value of count is 0. Can you tell me the output of this code? Given the count as 0, will the code inside this do while loop run or not? Yes or no? Will the code run or not? Anyone have any idea, guys? Okay, so as you can see, when I run this code, it will actually print the value as 0 and then only it will check the condition. Okay, so it will run at least once. This do while loop will run at least once, compared to while loop it will run only. It will not run only. Okay, just a second. So the only difference between while and do while loops is while loop will uh, run the statements only if the condition satisfies. Whereas in do while loop, it will run the code once and then it will check whether the condition satisfies or not. Okay, so that's how it will work. Okay, so that's about the conditionals. Okay, so moving on, we'll be discussing. Let's discuss about functions. Let's see. The basic functions that we have in Java. Okay, so functions are nothing but the block of code designed to perform a particular task. Okay, so let's say we want to just print a hello, or you want to build a complex code and you want to enclose it into a single place. In those cases, what we will do, we'll declare a function and we will when we something called invoke the function. Okay, so when we call the function, what will happen, uh, something called invocation happens in the screen. Okay, so in JavaScript, we can declare a function using the function keyword. Okay, so I'll be sharing this REPL code. Okay, just a second. So as you can see, this is a simple function uh, where I have given the function keyword and followed by that function name, and this is something called arguments. Okay, so what will happen is, in a function you can either accept any values so that you can use it and print output, or do some calculation. Okay, so to pass some values to this function, we'll be using this arguments. Okay, and inside this function I have this console.log statement. Okay, so what will happen is whenever I call this function using the function name like this, okay, so this is a function this part is function definition and this part is the function call. Okay, so as you can see, this is a function call. Okay, this is a function call, this is the function definition. Okay, so this is how we declare a function in simple function in JavaScript. Okay, okay, so as you can see, when I try to call this function, what happens is it will you know yeah, so as you can see, uh, this is the function definition and this is the function call. Okay, so whenever you try to pass any values like this, it will be stored inside this name variable as arguments. Okay, so let's say we want to use this function again to say hello to some of our audience over here. Let's say there's Rahul, right? Let's say I want to say hello to Rahul. So what I can do, I can just call this function again so that it will use the same code again, right? So instead of writing this console.log again and again and again, you can directly, what we can do, we can use a function and call it multiple times. Okay, so let's say we have another person called Aditi. Okay, so as you can see, if I try to call this function again and again, we get three different outputs just with a function call, right? So as you can see, the functions are very powerful, guys. Okay, whenever you want to repeat the same amount of code again and again inside a named part of the project, what we can do, we can declare a function and use it again and again. Okay, so whenever you try to let's say you have a complex web application that you are building and you want to decrease the lines of code, in those cases you will be using functions a lot so that you can follow a principle called try, do not repeat yourself. So in those cases, what you can do, you don't need to repeat the same code again and again. Instead of that, you can put it inside a function and call it. That's it, right? So this is how a basic function works. Okay, and now what we'll do, we'll see three basic JavaScript functions that are present in the language itself. Okay, we'll be using three different functions called alert, prompt, and confirm. So we have a basic uh, project over here. I have created a simple button over here. As you can see, I have created two headings and a button where it says try it, right? So when I click this function button, what will happen? A pop box will open. Okay, so as you can see, this I am an alert box. So as you can see, this is what will happen when you use an alert function. Okay, so whenever whatever you pass inside this alert function, string or number, so this will be displayed in the pop-up box. As you can see, I'm an alert box. So let's say I change it to JavaScript. So what will happen is this just a second, I'll just run the code first. So after running the code, if you see, the value is changed to JavaScript, right? So this is how an alert function works. Simple JavaScript function. Okay, so now let's see what is a prompt function. Okay, in this prompt function, I've created I've created a simple function. Okay, and I've declared two variables, text and person. Okay, you can use let as to declare variables also in JavaScript. Okay, let is like a new feature in JavaScript which is also used to declare variables. Okay, similar to var. Okay, so even if I use var over here, the code will actually work. There will be no changes, no problem. Okay, so if I run this code, what will happen is the button will be ready over here. So when I press this button, it will ask for the name. Okay, as you can see, the prompt function, it will ask for name, and I'm giving, and the default value is given as Harry Potter. Okay, as you can see, the second value that I'm passing into the function is Harry Potter. Say, let's say if you give just Harry, what by default the value will be defined over here. Okay, so prompt will be used to get user input from us. Okay, if you want to get a user input, as you can see, Harry is displayed predefined over here. If I say, let's say I use my name Ashwin, and I give OK. So based on that, what I've given conditional statements, so that it will take the value input value as inside this value variable person, and it is checking whether it is null or not. As we discussed the data type null, as you can see it is checking whether the value is present or not. Okay, so this is an OR operator to check the person is null, or if the person doesn't the user, if we don't give any, let's say I give the try it again, and I don't give any value, just I give OK. So as you can see, the text is now changed to user cancel the prompt. Okay, so that's why it is displayed over here like this. Otherwise, what if I give any value, let's say I will give the default value as Harry, right? Let's say I give OK to Harry itself, so it will be saying hello Harry, how are you today, because I'm changing the text over here, and I'm using a DOM event. Okay, this is called a DOM event actually. So if you have learned more about HTML, we have used this doc type on top of the HTML code, right? So this doc type is denotes nothing but the document. So the entire screen over here, as you can see in the browser, that's a document. So what we are doing, we are accessing the document. In that, we are getting the element by ID. As you can see, I given the ID for the paragraph tag over here as demo, right? So I'm accessing that element, and I'm giving the inner HTML part as text. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking this text and I'm putting inside this HTML code after I'm running this JavaScript file. Okay, so after that, what will happen here, the text file will be added. Okay, let's say if I'm changing this to uh, h3 tag. Okay, let's say it is a heading tag. If I run it, okay, if I run it, you will see the difference. Okay, if I say, let's say I give it as a delete. Okay, let's say one of the audiences here. Okay, as you can see, this change, it is a heading tag. So whatever we are getting the element by ID, whatever the demo, whatever the element is using the demo ID, it is giving the text over here as the hello Dilip, how are you today. So based on the input, it is dynamic, right? If I give directly Harry, it is giving Harry, right? So this is how useful a prompt function is. Okay, so this is used to get data input from the user. Okay, and finally we have something called confirm function. Okay, so in confirm function, what will happen if I show the script tag? Okay, it's very similar to prompt only. So in this what will happen is, if we have two options, right? OK or cancel in the pop-up box, right? So if we press OK, what will happen is the confirm function will return a boolean value as true. As you can see, it is telling that we have to press a button, right? If we press OK, as you can see, it is the confirm function is returning true. Only then this if function will work, right? Only then, sorry, this if conditional will work, right? So that's how this text is now uh, you know showing us you press OK. So let's say I run it, and I said, say this time I press cancel. As you can see, you press cancel. So based on the output, whatever the user clicks, the confirm function will return the value as true or false. If it is false, we can declare this, use this text to similar to the prompt function. Whatever we use the DOM event, as you can see over here, we are changing the HTML over here and putting the text inside this paragraph tag. Okay, so these are the three basic functions in JavaScript. Okay, so I'll give the code files to you guys after this event. Okay, so that's all about today's this one. We have discussed the basic functions, right? I've discussed 5 topics: variables, data types, control flow, and functions and operators, right? So that's it about the basics of JavaScript, guys. So we have come to the end. So we have few announcements for you. Okay, so we have a JavaScript channel in our Discord community. Okay, so please check out this uh, Discord community. Do join this and ask any of your doubts or post any of your what you understand about this event in the JavaScript channel over the Discord community. Okay, so I have provided the links over here. I will give the links after the event as well. Okay, so I'll give you a challenge. Okay, so this is a JavaScript challenge provided by HackerRank. In that, whatever you have learned till now, you can actually solve problems using the concepts that you have learned. Okay, this will help you more to understand the concepts and all, and it will increase your problem solving abilities. Okay, so I'll give you a challenge. Okay, so in HackerRank, what you can do, there's a set of tutorials and challenges called 10 days of JS. Okay, so after you've completed the challenge, you can get a gold badge over here, as you can see. You can use this as your boost your profile and share it in your LinkedIn or Twitter or any of your social profiles to showcase your JavaScript skills. Okay, so this is a challenge I provide to you guys. I'll give you this link at the end of the event as well, so do check it out. Okay, and please support our Code Academy JU chapter by joining this website. Okay, as you can see, we have our own event landing page at community.codeacademy.com. In that, please join this chapter page where you will be getting the all of the event details, as you can see, and our core team members also. Okay, so do check it out, and that's a wrap up. So thank you for participating, and I hope you had fun getting to know about the JavaScript basics, the roadmap, and so thank you guys.